Hey guys, how you doing? Ronsanut here. Welcome to build log 6 of Clockwork Orange. In this video we actually get the GTX 680s installed into the rig. We add some LED lighting to the GPU blocks and to the CPU block, and then we also add some accents to the monsoon fittings, and I make a change to the tubing run based on some feedback from one of you guys on Facebook. And in addition to that, we finish up some of the cabling inside and especially on the back, install the SSDs and install the hard disks, and then a special a board in the back. And then the only thing we're waiting on after that is some special bits that'll show up in the next video. So with that, let's get started putting CPU blocks and GPUs in the rig.
Alright guys, now before I plug in the GTX 680s, one of the things that I need, a couple of things I need to do. One is on the top of these cards we have these chrome plugs. Now these chrome plugs would be fine, but I have black and orange in my scheme. Now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put some plugs. I got plugs on the side, some plugs that don't get used here. I'm going to use these black chrome plugs from XSPC. They're the right same size. They're actually the same, you know, exact same type of plug, except they're coated a little bit differently. So I don't know if you can see the difference in the two, but I'm going to use those for the ones around the end. And then for the top, I've got some monsoon orange plugs. So I'm thinking that the contrast again and highlighting that where you can see it straight down, these two, and then the top two on this guy are also going to be orange as well. So that's the plan. I'm going to take care of putting some plugs on there. And then in addition to that, I also need to, these things have places for LEDs. Now there's a port right here near the bottom, and then there's another one on the end right here. So in order to put them in easier, I'm going to do it now before I plumb them up with the, tubing. So I've got to run the LEDs, and I've got a bunch of them. These are actually custom made by performance PCs. They will actually sleeve and wire up some LEDs for you in the color of your choice. So not only the sleeving, but the LEDs in this case are also orange too. So the plan is to run and install these, and I'll need to run them in the case so they stay nice and neatly. Dress them now before I put in all of the before I leave the graphics cards in and plumb them up, because once you get them in, unless you got a leak or you got a problem with them, you got to pull them out. Now you've already seen that I've tested these cards before on the test bench, and also have been using them for a while, so unless I did something wrong during the assembly of them, they're good to go. And so I don't really have that. That's a low risk item, but I do want to put the LEDs in and get them dressed in the case so I don't have to fumble with my fat fingers once they're installed. So I'm going to do that now as well. So the other thing that I also need to do, in addition to running the LED wires from the graphics cards, is also, since considering I'm going to put the graphics card in PCIe 16 slot 1 and PCIe 16 slot 3, that's a 16 slot, that's a 16 slot, and that's a 16 slot. These two are 8 time slots. I'm using these two, and when I do that and get ready to tube it up, it's going to block access, or it's going to limit my access to the front panel connectors going to and from the motherboard. So what I need to do is at least run the cables that are going to go to those guys so that they're already connected, and I don't have to fit my fat hands up inside there once the graphics cards are in, especially since I tube it. Now, one of the cool things that I was able to get is cables from performance PCs, and these are all the BitPhoenix Alchemy cables. So I have one for just about every one of the I/O that I'm dealing with there. So I've got a audio extension cable in orange. I've got a BitPhoenix Alchemy USB extension cable, again another one in orange. I've got, of course, I got a few SATA 6 GB per second SATA cables, and we have Molex power extension cable to SATA. power. Then of course the standard 6-pin PCIe power extension cables. Got all those here. And I got some 8-pin PCIe power extension cables for the motherboard. And then just in case I needed them, I also got a bunch of these Alchemy. They're 2-pin chassis I/O extensions. So any of the 2-pin guys that sometimes you need going to the to bring the hard disk activity and all that, those are here too. So I've got a few of those. So I've got all those massive cable connections to the motherboard that I need to dress. And for now, I'll at least plug them in and run them out the back and then dress them at a later point. And then I also have to deal with the Acro computer cables to the power adjust and the Aquaro controller. So, and this is just one. There's a bunch of cables that go to that too. So I think for now at least going to run the Alchemy cables to the needed points on the motherboard here, and so that I can run them out, and then I'll plug in the graphics card with the LEDs on them and dress those cables, and then I can finish up the tubing for the graphics cards in the system. So I think that's where we're going to head now. Start dressing some of these cables and popping them out the logical points into the back of the back panel for the case. All right, we have the cables put in. I ran some of them. I've got the high def audio, a USB 2.0. Although this case is all USB 3.0, I do have to run a USB connection for the Aquaro. So I went ahead and put the orange cables in for that. And then all of the front panel connections, I also had little 2-pin extenders for the reset switch, the power switch, the LED, the power on LED, as well as the hard disk activity LED. So those are all that are run. I'll probably dress them and tie wrap them up later on. Right now they're through, so that now that I install the graphic cards, I won't have to, make it difficult or tight for me to get my hands in there. And the other thing I did too is, of course, I installed the first graphics card, and I ran the LEDs. There's one LED down there, and then there's a second LED right here. And right now, again, I just have it tie wrapped to keep them together I had to tack them in there with a little bit of silicone so the LEDs didn't pop out. And then I'm going to take care of the cables later on. So now it's time to get in there and tube up that connection, and then I think we're going to try some Crystal Link. Put the second video card in, put some Crystal Link between them, and then run the tubing connections to the top of the rad. So let me get the camera positioned, and I'll work on getting some of the getting the tubing connection for that guy done. And I recognize that one cap here is black. I think I might change it to an orange, so I have it like that. Alright, so in order to install some tubing here between the GPU 90 degree and the standard Monsoon on the CPU block, I need my trusty Monsoon tool, and this is a rotary, so I'll be able to move this guy around, and I will need to make sure he's tightened up really good. So I will be tightening him up now. And again, the rotaries on these Monsoons are really easy to turn. And so I got to give them that. I just hope that, well, once I get them in place, I guess there's no reason to be turning them back out. And I put the back plate on here, so that's going to be nice. So if my tool slips for any reason, I won't be smacking the back of the graphics card. So what I'm going to do now is tighten up this guy, make sure he's nice and snug. And I already did that because he won't budge. All I'm going to do is turn this guy out. Oh, and I better. Alright, let's get under here, see if you can see. That doesn't look too bad. We've got the tubing in place now. And the tube had a little curl to it. Alright, so we got some tubing in there. I don't think it looks too bad. Not too crowded there, and the orange and black contrast looks pretty good, I think. Alright, so we're looking alright. Now let's get the other graphics card in there. And then we also have some Crystal Link tube that we're going to use. And a couple of the multi-link adapters to do that. So let's get it in there and get it all ready for connection. Alright, so believe it or not, this is my first time using Crystal Link, so I hope I'm doing this right, and I believe I have the right block piece, so we'll see. And what I'm doing is I'm actually securing the Crystal Link to the second video card. So I've got it on this guy here. My idea is, as I install it in here, I'll slip it into the right spot. All at the same time. So I've got this lined up. Looks like it may work. Okay, so the card is in the slot. Now I have to adjust the Crystal Link between the two fittings. Now, I don't know how much it moves in between, but I think I've got it right in the center there. Okay, I've got the caps on. Crystal Link's in. I was even able to get the LEDs tacked in there, same as I did on the first card. Now I'm just moving those cables out of the way. So I'm going to have to dress them all up. Alright, so how's it look? It wasn't too bad. Now all I got to do is run the plumbing, the tubing from here to there. And for that we're going to need some bits power to give me the right turn radius. It'd be nice if Monsoon made some multiple rotary fittings, but they don't have that yet. So we're going to have to mix some bits power, which is not bad. That's not a bad thing. So we will use a triple rotary to get me the right angle. Right. And then on top of that we'll have the Monsoon fitting on this guy here. So we'll have him here, and then we're going to have to do the same thing on that guy. So let's just get that figured out here. So hopefully all the big stuff that I need to do up there is done, and I won't have to get my hands in there and have to take out the graphics cards. So that would suck. But so far so good. So the plan is to put this in here and then angle them up just right and put a little piece of tubing between them and being able to rock and roll. Now I think I want to change the neon green O-rings on these to black. I don't know that you'll see them after they're compressed, but I'm going to do that anyway. So hang tight. Alrighty, we got some black washers now on both of these. And I have the black and the orange monsoon fittings in there. We're going to put this one is going to stay all orange coming from the water block. Alright. And then the idea is this guy coming down from the radiator, or actually going into the rad. It's going to be the black one. And I gotta get this. Don't know if you heard all that because I had the microphone on the camera, but I was just describing the different. The black one's going to stay on going into the rad, and the orange one's going to be the one coming out. Alright, so now we get to play twister with the fittings here and see if we can get them going in roughly the right place. That looks like they're about wanting to kiss, huh? Now that's a short piece of tubing. Probably a good place for more crystal link. But, oh, I do have another crystal link adapter actually. Huh, I wonder if that's straight enough though. It's got to be perfect. Huh. Let me take a piece of crystal link out and just kind of look at it. So, see if we can get an idea if that's going to work. It might be a little too much. It's a little too flexible there. So, crystal link could possibly do the job. I mean, I have a couple other longer ones here, but I think this one here with the multi-link adapters might be the one, but I don't know that that is perfectly straight. It's got to be right on, and that's damn close though. Alright, what do you think about that? So I went with crystal link here. I could have done the fittings, but I think that looks cleaner and better. The distance for the tubing would have been really short, and I could have done it, but it was even shorter than this down here. So now I know it's a mix between monsoon and bits power, but in order to get that angle right, that's the only stuff that I have available that works. So I've got all the monsoon most everywhere else, and on the fringes here, especially with all the right angles, I mean not the right angles, the angles that I needed to get to connect the two up there. I think that's that looks good. So I don't know, what do you guys think? So what do you think? I don't know, it's a mix between the crystal link and the monsoon, just fitting the fitting with tubings. This one here needed to be that because I was on an angle. I would have had to stand it off some, and it's not directly straight, so so that would have been a problem to use crystal link. Plus I really wanted to, I want to go with the monsoon throughout this. But I'm thinking that definitely's got to stay. This one, I might go back and try the original setup. My original plan was to put some monsoon fittings with tubing up there, so I'm going to take a look at that and see how that looks. All right, so the Crystal Link looked good, but you know what? I think the aesthetic turns out better if I stay with the Monsoon up there. That way I have it bookended nicely. You know, we have the Monsoon fittings all around the blocks here coming up through the XSPC water block. Then the SLI Crystal Link right there, and then coming back and finishing it up with basically the same kind of, almost the same kind of setup that we had down there. So I think that's the way I'm going to go. The Crystal Links look nice, you know what, but if we're going to go that way, probably should just go Crystal Link all the way, you know, even down here if I was going to do that. And then find a way to do it here too. So I think this is probably a better aesthetic for it. Otherwise it breaks it up a little too much. Just having that in the middle looks good, and I don't think causes any heartache for anything. So I think that's the way I'm going to go. All right, so about to get started putting some cabling in on the other side and mounting the hard drives, but I realized that I hadn't put in the LEDs around the CPU block, so I need to do that. And I also, from one of you guys, feedback on Facebook, you suggested using a 45-degree fitting on the CPU block. Now, I don't know why I didn't think of that. I guess I thought it was cleaner looking to go straight in like that, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm actually, all it's going to do is just make it a little bit straighter and less of a bend. So we'll see how that looks. So for right now, though, I'm going to run this cable. I do need to get some tie wraps so that I can put these together nicely and then slip them up underneath the Raystorm. And then just, I don't know what you guys use, but in order to keep these LEDs from popping out of the 3mm holes on either side of the Raystorm, I use some silicone adhesive. So I'm going to put a little bit of that, some clear silicone adhesive, of course. I put them on the tip of the LED and then dress them so they stay in there, and then you know, they'll stay and won't come out easily, because many times I'll bump it while I'm fiddling inside there. So, but let me get some tie wraps and we'll come back to putting the LED cables in, and then we'll start working on modifying that to be a right angle fitting there, or a 45-degree angle fitting, excuse me. Let's see. I think I'm gonna slide them up in here, one on either side. Okay, that's one side. Alright, so I've got the LEDs mounted on either side of the block there, and they look good lit up. They come out fine. I am going to try to slide this tie wrap down further so you don't see it so much. Now what I'm going to do is remove this Monsoon fitting and then put in the 45-degree, and let's see what it looks like. And yeah, let's see what it looks like. So now you get to see how easy it is to remove a fitting here. I have RAM here, I have another block in the way, so I'm going to do my best to remove it without damaging anything else. So let's see how this goes. Now the key to using this tool is to get it in the right spots. Now what I see happening here is, because it does snugly tighten down to the tubing, it's actually spinning the tubing with it from the block here. So, and maybe that's not a bad thing. It's you know, it is coming off easily. Just want to make sure that you don't slip on the tool so you don't scratch up the fitting. See, I have it plenty here. I'm going to have to just take it all off. May have to put a different piece of tubing in. All right. So now the challenging part is getting this off. And I think what I'm going to do is heat it up probably. So, actually no, I can actually pull it out if I had to. It's in there nice and tight, but I can pull it off. All right, so let's see what this looks like. Close up and you can see what I'm doing. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm holding the rotary portion of the block and then turning the body of it here and then tightening it up that way. So the rotary spins so nice and smoothly on here that that's an easy thing to do. So now, actually now it's getting really tight. So now the base is tight to the block, and now the rotary should take over up at the top here once I have it nice and tight. Yeah, to maneuver it where I need to. So I'm just making sure that it's nice and tight to the block. All right. So what do you think? Standing off look a little bit better? Yeah, actually it looks pretty good. So a little bit of a shorter run, not going straight in, and using up the fittings like I had hoped to. Well, thanks to you guys online. The beauty of Facebook, when I put some pictures up there, you guys you were right there giving me some feedback and comments on it. So this is not just my build, this is your build too. You guys definitely, for me anyway, I might have my originally preconceived notion of what the build's going to turn out like, but inevitably when you're building a system, you're going to make changes, especially when it comes down to fittings. You definitely buy what you think you need and then buy some extra. Otherwise you'll be, otherwise if you're like me, you'll be going out and placing additional orders. So I like it. Thanks for the feedback, you guys. And you guys made that piece happen. So, all right, so now let's start. Let me mount some hard drives, and then we need to get on with some cabling. Before you know it, we'll be ready for a leak check. And you guys might enjoy that. If you haven't watched some of my previous videos, you never know what you're going to get when I leak check a system. All right, so let's turn this beast around and get some hard drives out and get ready to mount them. Okay, now we're looking at the business end of the of Clockwork Orange, and one of the things that you might notice here now is we've got a lot of Molex power connections that we're going to have to contend with. Now this is from the pump, so this will be going to, I believe this is going to arrange to go to the Aquaro, I believe, to control the power for that. But then we have the LED coming from the CPU block, we have the LEDs coming off of the graphics card, and we have the LED coming out of the reservoir. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and that would mean at least one whole other power connection off the power supply for Molexes to have to deal with out here. But rather than doing that, they make X stations. They allow you to plug in one power connection from your power supply to Molex, and it feeds a number of these. So I've used them before. I have them in my STH10 build, and I am going to get one to put in here somewhere. So that's when it comes down to the cable management of these guys. I'm going to go ahead and order one. Hopefully it'll be here by Friday. But now I'm going to put in hard drives. I got 2 SSDs that I'm going to put in RAID 0. All right, so we have the 2 Intel SSDs, the 510s, and they're going to be in RAID, and they get mounted right here in this spot right in here. So I need to get the hardware out and secure them down into this spot here. And then I'm going to put 2. This motherboard I can do RAID off the Intel chipset, and that's what these guys, because they're going to be in a RAID 0. They're going to be the boot drive. And then I have a couple of Velociraptor 600 gigabyte drives, 10,000 RPMs. I'm going to put these 2 inside of up here and here, and my plan is to run them in RAID 0 off of the ASMedia controller. So that'll give us what, 1.2 terabyte of storage space. And for now, this system will be used to replace my STH10 while I take that down and upgrade that. So that should be good for now. The hard drives for the hardware for the CaseLab cases comes, and they have all these great little packages that have all of the hardware that you need. And I have right here, I believe, the ones that go right into the SSDs. So I'll go ahead and install these. All right, we have the SSDs all nicely mounted right here, ready to rock and roll. I have the SATA ports on this end of the drive. That's the way they are, and when you do that, these are oriented so that you can't read the labels. Of course, that would be different if this was not in reverse layout case, and that would be on the other side and flipped over. But I have now to add one of the Velociraptors, and CaseLabs gives you these anti-vibration rubber mounts with screws. So what you do is you secure them into your ports on the drive here, and then I'll show you how they get they lock into the housing on the side there. So I'm only going to put 2 in. You can put 1 there, but I'm not going to do that. And then I need to get another screw from the bag of tricks. This is the actual shoulder screw with a big flathead. Put them through. What we'll do is we'll mount them inside these big holes and then push it in, and they'll secure to the smaller slots. All right, so the drive then will, with these mounts, has a slot in them, and that's what will slide into this smaller portion of it. And so what I'm going to do is right now just orient it up inside there, and then I need to screw in these other 2. And I need to do that in this larger portion of the drive area. So we got them in, and we slide them back into the slots there. Now I believe these 10,000 RPM drives obviously spin fast, and I didn't hear them really when I tested them on the bench, but I had them on this ESD pad, so they may have not made a lot of noise, but they can. So it's important to definitely dampen these guys. All right, so we have them also oriented so the SATA cables will come out from that side there. All right, so we've got them on there. Now it's time to slide it in. There we go. Perfect. All right, and let's. All right, here we have OS and storage, all the mass storage mounted. So I've started dressing the cables a bit here. I ran the USB 3.0. This front panel has two USB 3.0 connections, so I ran one on the motherboard. Actually, this UP7 actually has two USB 3.0 headers on it, so it's perfect. I ran one up to the top header, and then the other one is on the side by the power connection. And I just tacked them down right now, and I also ran the audio, the high def audio, and also the reset front panel indicator and lights. So I run those separately, and I've got them connected up right now. They're not tied down yet, but I've got them all connected to the orange cables coming off the motherboard. And then I still have the USB. I have to connect up the Aquero. And then I just ordered the Bits Power X station, and I got to find a place for it where these will all reach. And I think maybe somewhere right down around here I might need an extension, or I might be able to mount it here. I know I still need to run the power cables out, but those are a lot bigger and bulkier, so I want to get all these smaller cables tied down and out of the way and try to get it dressed as neat as I can, and then I'll run those. And then the only other thing that I was worried about is this SATA connection, but it reaches from the port on the motherboard it's going to be going to down to this guy. It makes it down here, so I went ahead and connected them up for now. So I think that's it right now. Let's dress up some of these cables and wait on the X power, the X station. Alright, so we're to a point right now where I want to get the Aquero cabled up. So I have here a USB connector that takes the main Aquero controller, and I need to run it to the USB 2.0 connection on the motherboard. So I already have one of the orange ones bringing a USB connection out the back, and I forget how long this cable is, but I've got it strung up. He's going to go out the back to connect to that, so I'm going to connect him up. Then I have I have to connect up the flow sensor, so there's a special flow sensor cable to go from the flow sensor to the Aquero. Then there's an Aquabus, so there's a cable that interfaces between the main Aquero controller and the PowerDrust Ultra that's going to control my pump. So they need to talk to each other, so this guy is the master and that's got to be a slave, so there's a cable that's got to go between those. Then in order for the PowerDrust Ultra to control the pump, there's also a power cable that you plug into the pump right here, this end, and then you have the TAC cable, and then that connects into, there's a 3-pin header that connects into the PowerDrust, so that using the AquaSeat software, that controller will also control the pump as needed. And one of the things that I like to do is I have these black clips. There's an assortment of them that I get. They're self-adhesive. Some have, some are a little bit larger, and they have, you know, pretty big round clips. So you can either put one thick cable in there, or string a bunch of little ones in, and then they can lock down. So I have a little bit of a larger one there. Here's a little different style, and they just slide in underneath that, and they get organized together. So that's what I'm doing there. I'm going to do the same thing up here near the top. And if I need to, I mean, they're self-adhesive, I can always pull them off. And another style that I like to use too are tie wrap ones. These you usually see on the back because they're not as clean. You know, you have a nice rounded, you know, nice smooth curves on this. So a little aesthetically, it looks a little bit better. It's black, and the case is black, white, and orange. So not bad. They do sell these in white, but they're a little bit harder to find. And then this one here, like I said, is you can put a tie wrap through and secure it down. So this is good for securing big bundles of cables are out of the way. And again, since it's got tie wraps on it and cut edges, it's not as a clean look, but it's great and functional. So I highly recommend them. You can find them anywhere online. You just look for a tie wrap mount. I think this is a 3M one. I'm not sure. So what I'm going to do now is dress up some of these cables up here now. I still have power to deal with. But power's going to come up through the back, and then also it'll come up through the bottom here, so I got to figure that out. And now I've added a sensor here. The third sensor, number 3, goes to right in front of the fan. So basically that's the ambient air coming in. So the first one is into the loop, to the rad. Second sensor is out of the rads. Third one is ambient. And now I got arranged to put number 4. I think is going to be somewhere hanging in the middle of the case here. So I'll have a case temp. And let me figure that one out. I'll show you. All right, now what I did is I added, for the case probe sensor, I put right up in here, tied it to the LED going into the, it's the monsoon LED plug going into the reservoir. I tie wrapped the sensor right up to the top there, so it's hovering in the middle upper section of the case. And then I tie wrapped the cable out along with that cable, with the LED power cable, and then ran it out and then brought it back over and in, and it is on, I believe that's the 4th, yeah, that's the 4th temperature sensor position. And I've got them all kind of tie wrapped up, and I put another cable tie clip here to bundle those guys up out of the way. So so I'm thinking maybe one more. I did say I wanted to put one here by this block, so I got to figure out where is the best spot to put it. And what I was pointing to is I wanted to put one close by this water block, see if I can get a temp coming off of one of the chips there. So we'll see if I can arrange to get one of these cables inside there. Alright guys, I have the temperature sensors installed now, and let's see if you can see them. There are 5 of 8 temp sensors in there. Let's see. There's a look at a string of them. Maybe not. Okay. So these are the temp sensors. Here's the temp sensors right there. There's 8 connection points. I have 5 filled up. One of them is coming from the output of the 360 radiator. So that's at the end of the loop. And then the second one is coming from the input to the 480 radiator. And that's the beginning of the cooling loop. Of course, after it comes through all of the hot stuff, the CPU, GPUs. All right, so that's 2. Number 3 is right there hanging in the middle of the case. That's going to be the case temp. Number 4, I don't know if you can see it, but it's inside the front. It's inside the front area, so that's going to be my ambient. It's actually right there, right behind the middle fan, but in front of it. And then we have another one going into right there on the block. So that idea is to attempt to capture the temperature of the voltage control chips that this water block is attempting to cool. So I'm curious to see if it's not sandwiched between the block and the chip, it's just down in that area. So we'll see what we get. So that's 5 temps in this case that are connected to the Aquaro. We have here an Aquaro. This is the Aquabus connector, so this is going from the controller up to the power adjust up there, so that the Aquaro here can control that power adjust. Then we have all of the fans, so each of the banks of fans, you got a set coming off of the back of the 360, a set from the front of the 360, and then the 4 off the 480. So those are 3 sets of fan connections here. And we also have right in here is the flow meter, and that runs down under and connects to the flow meter that we have hidden in the back there. And then the only thing that we have to do now is, then the other most important one is, you can see in here is a USB. A USB connection goes right around to the back, and that plugs into a USB connection right there on the motherboard. So we have the way to, the software can control and talk to the Aquaro. Now I know that's kind of busy with cables there, but remember the door will be covering that and the handle will be there, so you won't see any of that. You might see some of the tubing. You should see some of the tubing for some of the coolant coming to and from that area, but you won't see all those cables. So I did my best to dress them up kind of alongside, out of the way, and but we still got to get power to the power adjust, and then power down here, right here, to the Aquaro. So I'm gonna run, I have some cables on order now. I have an orange one, so it matches with this bundle here, and then I have a black extension one that'll come out and go out through the back. So for now though, I'm not going to connect them up until I get those cables, or if I get to a point and they haven't arrived yet and I want to fire up the systems, I'll temporarily put something in there. But for now we don't need those. And the next thing we've got is a Bits Power X station. And what we have here is a Molex power cable, some double-sided sticky tape, and this is a Bits Power X station that allow me to bring in power from the power supply. And then it does allow you to connect up fans. You got all kinds of 5 volt and 12 volt and 7 volt controls on there. You can usually wire these up with a switch to a switch, so that everything that's plugged into them goes on and off with your switch. But I am arranging to use this to support all of the LEDs. So when the system comes on, I want all the LEDs on. But I wanted one point to connect them to. I didn't want to have tons of harnesses in here. I still have to install the power cable. So the plan is to put this in the back and have all of the LED power cables connect to them. So we have 4 Molex connections, and the idea is to be able to plug them up and also close that back door. So let me get this on the tripod and turn the system around, and let's see if we can find a place to connect it. Well, before I install the X station back here, I wanted to do my best to dress the cables up and out of the way. So I have what I showed you before was one of these tie wrap mounts that you can slide the tie wraps in at a couple of angles, a couple different ways. Really not an angle straight. You can either put them in like this or like that. So I'm gonna tie all of these connections up and out of the way back here. But I got them up and out of the way here. And then these naturally come around here. So here we have a bunch of the LED power cables coming from the graphics cards. And then this is coming from the LED plug on top of the reservoir. Now this I'm going to leave hanging out here. This is the power to the pump coming from the power adjust. So those I will have to string up separately, and I'll have to move those because I need to connect the power to the pump in order to bleed and fill the system. And then down here we have another LED coming from the GPU. So I've got 4 connections here. Now all of the ones coming that were made by Performance PCs beautifully have pass-through connections, so I can tap onto those. But remember, anything I put here, I got to close the door. So all right, so I have the X station here. It's got to take power from the power supply, so that'll be coming out here, and then I'll have to be dressing. I'll be dressing all of the main power down in this area out of the way. But I need to then have some kind of a place that's close by where all of these connections can get to. So coming out the bottom for the CPU, let's see what's more likely a central place. Using that port as a feed through. Of course I'm going to use all of those. This one here I kind of have covered up because I was hoping I could mount this right around here. Now I can always move and reroute those, but I'm thinking if I can put this here, this is kind of a central place that I can connect. I think I can connect this one too, and then easily these will connect to it as well. So that's my idea. I want to leave all that open because I got to run power cables up and down. So the best place is here. All right, so I got the Velcro. So if I can ever get the adhesive off. All right. What I don't want to do is show the sticky tape through. So okay, I think I got it in there pretty good. Now power is going to come up to here. Make sure I got it on there. So my first connection was this one. Now you notice this does protrude out when I plug these guys in. They do stick up some, but I know that when I'm going to test it, when I close the door will cover this and not be a problem. I hope. Now I might have to cut these away and redress these, but for now, just connecting the power up to them. And now for this one is a male, so I need an adapter or I need to repin this. So for this guy, or plug it into, here we go. I need the female adapter for this guy, so I need to make arrangements to do that. You can buy them. I have some, but you have to buy them as options. It's female to female because you notice these connectors on the X station are all male pins. So you need to have female, which these custom cables from Performance PCs have both sides on them. All right, so what I found was I have an adapter cable that will take, now this is a 12 volt adapter cable, and this LED is 5 volt, just like each of these are. So what I've got to do is, see, this is too long. It'll be sticking out and the door won't close. But what I'll do is I'll swap the pins in this connector, take these two and put them in so the yellow would represent the red, the 5 volt, and the black is ground. And then I'll plug this guy into the 5 volt connection right here, fan header, on the X power, the X station, and I'm golden. I'm good to go. All right, so that's the plan. I'm going to depin this and move it around, and then we'll hook them up. Now guys, although I mentioned, you know, that all I had to do was swap some wires around, I'm pretty familiar with, you know, Molex power connections. Maybe most of you are too. But I did a couple of things. I didn't just assume and swap the pins, which by the way I did. I moved the black and yellow from the 12 volt side over to the 5 volt side on this connector so that I can use it to power this guy up as I planned. But I didn't just assume it. I did two things. I went and got a little, just a little, you know, pre-wired connection to make sure. So you can see the color coding on here is what I thought. So you got red, ground, ground, 12 volts. So you got 5 volts, ground, ground, 12 volts. All right. So I did that, and then also to make sure, I got a multimeter out, and I went to ground, and then I also pressed hit the center conductor on the 5 volt fan power, and you see down here on the meter that we have 5 volts. So I didn't just assume. I did some logical checking with some other cables that I know are connected and cabled correctly. Then I went ahead and made the connection change, and now I have the power for the 5 volts for this LED to fan power connector, and then I can just plug them in right on here, and I'll string these up out of the way. But now I have my LED to my reservoir all lit up, and it is working. So anyway, just a quick little aside there, just to, you don't mess with power. Make sure you're absolutely right. If you're going to depin and repin something, make sure check and double check, because otherwise, you'll either burn out an LED, you can short out your card, you could cause problems at your power supply, you name it. You don't want to mess around with that. So, all right, with that said, I'm going to dress these cables up now. And I have all of the LEDs that I wanted to have connected. I have the GPU blocks and then the CPU, and now the power to the LED going down into the reservoir. All right, I got them tied up here and tucked behind the X station. So that's the power connection there, and we're good to go here. All right, here's some real fun. Got all the power cables in that I think I'm going to need. Got the 4 PCIe Express. Got 1 Molex. I got 2 SATA, since I got to run SATA cable up here, power cable up here. I got the 2 here, the 1 here. I don't think the spacing on these guys is going to stretch between here and here, or if it does, it's going to not be so pretty. So I'm going to connect these guys up, and so I'm going to start on those first. All the rest of them come up through here, but those power cables I have to dress off of these guys. All right, and also I got to get the SATA cables, the SATA data cables on them too. So let me do that. All right, we're talking SATA data and SATA power. SATA power, I was able to run the one of the SATA power cables. It's got 4 connectors on it, right? I've got 1 here. This one is not going to make it anywhere. But then I was able to get the other 2 right here on the 2 SSDs. Now I have a, what I didn't need to, it doesn't show on the front because none of the drives are in viewable space, but I do have a SATA power cable that has a Molex power connection on it. So I'm thinking that's going to run off of a Molex to the Molex cable. And I was able to remove one of these SATA cables, so that turned out really good. Now the data cables, I was able to get 2 right in there, and then bent them nicely, and they come right out into the front. And then this other one has already been installed. It was one of the first ones I ran. So far so good. I do have a SATA power data cable that's coming, an orange one that's back ordered, but that'll be protruding out the front. And so far I was able to eliminate 1 cable, so that's good. Alright, so I know it still looks a little crowded and busy, and it will for a little while yet. Now let's look at I think Molex power connection next in that mass. Alright, so what do you think? I mean, this side is just about done. I'm waiting on some power cables to power the Aquaro Power Adjust Ultra and the main Aquaro. Everything else here, and also a SATA, orange SATA data cable. I ran the main power and the PCIe cables here because I still have to add the extensions and then route them and dress them through. So I'm not ready to do that yet. And I also have a couple, the power going to the Aquaros. They're right here, so I'll be tapping off of these cables. I can dress them up if I need to. But overall, not too bad. And there'll be some fine tuning of the tie wrap, getting a little more 90-degree corners on some of these where it makes sense. All right, so we've got the business side with all this cabling and our tubing coming through. Just about done. And then on the inside, so it's looking pretty clean now, I think. We've got the USB 3.0 cables installed here. Those are the only black ones that you see coming to the motherboard. And then we have the Alchemy cables going to the I/O connections, the front panel connections for USB and audio and power on hard disks, LEDs, all that fun stuff. So those are the orange cables up there. And I will fan them out and dress them a little bit better once I don't have to get my hands in there much anymore. And then of course you've seen all the tubing's done. The reservoir I've got standing up straight. It actually was leaning forward just a little bit because I secured it to the back on this bracket. So I've got a couple of little black tie wrap mounts that are underneath there, and I'll figure, and I actually have to take off this reservoir and pump because the pump's currently set to 3. So once I fill the loop and bleed the system, I'm going to need to crank it up to 5 and let the Aquero control the flow. So yeah, I think it's looking really good. I've got all the cables right here that I'm going to be using connected up, and now the rest is really just stressing it. So I think that's it. That's it for this video. I hope you've been enjoying this build. We're getting near the end now, and a big thanks to Case Labs for this awesome SM8 Merlin that I could build this Clockwork Orange system, and also to Performance PCs for all these awesome Alchemy cables and the fan grills and all these fantastic monsoon fittings, which I think look great. First time using it. All these cool orange accents as well. So and the LED plug that's in the reservoir. So I think the mix has come together well. And again, big thanks to those guys for sponsoring this. So that's it, guys. Again, hope you liked it. If you did, please like and favorite. And if you're so inclined, please subscribe. That's it from Ronsanut. Thanks for watching.